Hey now, welcome to 3x5 with Steve Bennett. My name is Steve Bennett. This is the #1 YouTube show that has 3 lists of 5. We're going to count them down. We'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to thank everyone who checked out the first episode of 3x5, who liked it, who commented. All those things, I guess, are important to try to get in the mix with the algorithm. It's a new show, so we're trying to get out there. So if you can, like, subscribe, comment, do all those things that even mentioning make me feel really uncomfortable. But I appreciate everyone who did it. Great show for you today. 3 more lists, 1 in wrestling, 1 in sports, 1 in pop culture. Each list sponsored by one of the great podcasts that help make this show a reality. Let's get started. Let's start with wrestling today. Sponsored by the 24-inch podcast, hosted by myself, Paula Bennett. Hi, Paula. Whose birthday is on the 16th of June. This should be up after that, probably. So happy birthday, Paula. Hope you had a good one. And also out in Kearney, New Jersey, Sopranostown, USA, Dave Rollins. 24-inch podcast. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's list. So obviously the 24-inch podcast is a Hulk Hogan podcast. And as a kid, when I started watching wrestling, Hulk Hogan was my favorite wrestler. And actually the first thing I can remember watching as a wrestling fan was before WrestleMania 2, Mean Gene in the gym with Hulk Hogan with his ribs all taped and the doctor. And they were talking about Hulk's match again at WrestleMania 2. And the doctor told me he shouldn't wrestle, but Hulk's just such a beast. He's going to wrestle anywhere. And I was thinking back to that the other day, and I was thinking, who were the 5 guys that terrified me the most when they got into the ring with Hulk? And what I mean is not even necessarily that they take the belt, and I was scared of that because I always wanted Hulk to be champ, but also what they might do to Hulk. Because these guys, they didn't play fair back then, and they would stoop to no boundary to hurt Hulk and to try to take the belt and to take his position in the company, as they're very, very jealous of the great Hulk Hogan. So here it is, and I'll tell you what I mean right at number 5. The top 5 people who scared the shit out of me when they got in the ring with Hulk Hogan. Number 5, Killer Khan. And this is what I mean. We're going to get into it right off the start. Killer Khan didn't have a huge career, never wrestled Hulk. Well, a huge career in the WWF. Never wrestled Hulk at a pay-per-view or on Saturday's Main Event or anything. But when I went to a house show in June of '87, they were taping some angles with Killer Khan and Hulk. And the very first time I seen Hulk that night was when he came out to do a snake pit with Jake the Snake. And Fuji and this jerk ambushed Hulk and spit this green ooze in his face and blinded the Hulk. He couldn't see. And that man needs to be able to see, of course. We all need our sight. God bless the sightless. And then he fought Hulk later in the night in a tag team match that only was for the house show, a dark match. And I was very scared that he would do it again and that Hulk would lose his sight. So Killer Khan, you're number 5 on the list of wrestlers who scared me the most when you wrestled Hulk Hogan. Number 4, now this just goes back to the start, right? The very first thing I was exposed to is that this guy broke Hulk's ribs, destroyed them. That's King Kong Bundy and his earthquake and his 5 count, a frightening heel, the bald head, almost no hair at all on his body, the intimidating singlet, an unbelievable heel from New Jersey. And he just scared the crap out of me because as I got introduced to wrestling, the first thing I knew was this guy hurts Hulk. So he scared me. Number 3 is a little bit later. Let's go to the 1990, an earthquake. This guy came out of the damn crowd to hurt Hulk. He couldn't just sit and enjoy a wrestling show. He's like, I got to get in the ring and I got to hurt Hulk. And he squished him and squished him and squished him on the Brother Love show. And I had to write letters. And I had to ask my friends to write letters. And I wrote a letter on behalf of my dog. My whole family had to write a letter to get Hulk better for SummerSlam. The SummerSlam, as Bret Hart would say. So earthquake, look at that ugly face. Number 3. Number 2, and this guy could easily be number 1. The Ugandan giant Kamala. All right, this guy came from the jungle. he would literally snap the head off a lion if he had to. Okay. And now, not only does he need a manager, he needs a handler who's got like a whip to handle the guy. And then they get out of the ring and they leave him in there with Hulk. Scary, scary stuff when I was a kid. And when they would have matches, I thought, Hulk's never going to see his family again. Say goodbye to the belt. It's over. It's over. That's how I felt. So number 2, Kamala. And number 1, it really can only be one guy. And let's focus on the belt here. Because never did I feel like the belt was in more jeopardy than at WrestleMania 3 and Andre the Giant. Just look at the size of Andre. He's bigger than Hulk. And not many people were taller and bigger than Hulk Hogan, who's, 6'6", 324, or whatever he listed at. But Andre is one of the greatest at what he does. And at that moment, what he did was scaring Hulkamaniacs. And he did it better than anyone. And I thought the belt was gone. And if you remember when the match started, a few seconds into it, Hulk goes for the slam and doesn't get him up. And Andre comes down on him and almost gets a 3 count. And I thought right there, oh no. Oh no. The belt's gone. Hulkamania's over. That weasel breath Heenan's going to leave the Silverdome with the championship. Are you kidding me? Hulk Hogan. So that's the top 5 wrestlers who scared me the most when they wrestled Hulk Hogan, courtesy of the 24-inch podcast. Number 5, Killer Khan. Number 4, King Kong Bundy. Number 3, Earthquake. Number 2, Kamala. And number 1, Andre the Giant. All right, pop culture's next. North-South Connection sponsors this one. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, the North-South Connection channel. I got good friends there, good people who've been really good to me to get this show off the ground, and I appreciate that. And recently in pop culture, as it's that time of the year, as we go from first run to reruns in television, there's been a lot of season and series finales. The Goldbergs had its series finale. Succession had its finale. Ted Lasso maybe had its series, maybe season. Nobody really knows. It's probably going to come back in some form, but will it be a spinoff or will it be whatever? Point is, there's been a lot of series finales. And the series finale is one of the most important episodes of the show because as important it is to leave a first impression, sometimes it's also important to leave a last impression. And it's the last lines that are going to be written in that world, unless there's a movie or a revival or something, which can be good or it can be bad. But here are my favorite, and I'm sure you have your favorite. And I'd love to get, whether it's your favorite, the people who scared you versus Hulk, or your favorite finales or the sports thing, please share with me at sports_casters on Twitter. You can do it in the comments. You can email me, thesportscasters@gmail.com. But here have been my top 5 finales. Number 5, Cheers. Here's the thing. This was really the first big finale of my lifetime. I had grown up hearing about the MASH finale and how the whole country stopped to watch the last episode of MASH. I don't know why I'm calling it MASH. And this was that for me, the Cheers finale. And I really started to get into Cheers and understand it more towards the end. I think the 4th last episode is the one where Paul, who's like a sometimes bar visitor, sleeps with Carla. And Carla's super embarrassed, and Paul's gloating about it in the back room. But I just remember what a big event this was. NBC sort of shut down for the week. And there was clip shows and a supersized finale. And it was just such a big deal. And I love Cheers. I think it's the second best sitcom of all time. Behind a finale that didn't make the list, Seinfeld, which I think Seinfeld is the best sitcom of all time, but I didn't love the finale. But Cheers is number 5. Number 4, more of a niche show, I guess. Not everyone watched it, but it was an incredible show. And that's NBC's Parenthood. Justin from North-South Connection and I have disagreed about one thing about Parenthood and their final season. And this is a spoiler if you haven't watched Parenthood by now. It's 10 years old, But I thought Zeke, the patriarch of the family, should have died earlier. And instead, he died with 6 or 7 minutes left in the series. I would have liked to see more of how the family responded to the death of Zeke and what the transition was from Zeke to Adam in terms of family patriarch. But it was a beautiful finale, and I cried, even though I was in my 30s or whatever when it aired. It's a beautiful show. It's written beautifully, and the characters are lovable. And I'm glad it existed when it did and not now, because it would be insufferable now. But it just really towed the line very well from being obnoxious and not really good. Love the show. Love the finale. Number 3, the second best show of all time, had a really bad 5th season. And that's why it's number 3, and that's The Wire. The Wire is 4 unbelievable seasons of TV, with season 4 maybe being the best season of any show ever. But season 5 sucks. It's ridiculous. They get poor McNulty here turning himself into creating a serial killer. The newspaper stuff falls flat. It's a bad season. But through the season is also The Street, and we see the closing of many of the stories. And the last episode, which is called Dash 30 Dash, a kind of a journalism thing for the end, they close off those stories, and you see the transitions on The Street, right? Omar dies. Michael becomes the new Omar. McNulty is no longer a cop, but Sydnor is the new McNulty, and so on and so forth. So they do a great job in the finale to close it. A beautiful shot at the end of McNulty and the guy that he relocates standing on the highway with the Baltimore city skyline, which is really the main character in the show, Baltimore, being featured. So a great finale there. Number 2. Now, this is a show that had the best final season of any show I've ever loved, and they had an incredible finale, and that's The Americans. The Americans is a spy show. These 2 Russian spies, they become Americans, and they live in America doing missions for the KGB and living among us, right across the street from an FBI agent whose job it is to find Russian spies. So they balance their life. They have 2 kids. As they get older, things get complicated. But the whole show is really built around what is going to happen when your neighbor, whose job it is to find Russian spies, finds out that his neighbors, the best friends, are Russian spies. And this moment happens in a parking garage, and it's the best moment in any finale ever. I mean, it's so good. There's a great moment on the train. Some of this stuff actually won't spoil in case you haven't watched Americans, because I know much fewer people have watched it. It's an unbelievable show with a great last season and a great, great finale. And no show has used Peter Gabriel's music better than The Americans. All right, number 1. It had to be number 1. It's the greatest show of all time. And it is a controversial finale that has gained love over the years. I think it was disliked initially and has become understood and liked a lot more as we've gone on. It's The Sopranos, the greatest show in television history. It's the king. Nothing is better. I love The Wire. I like Breaking Bad. I don't love Breaking Bad. I like it though. I like a lot of shows. Nothing touches The Sopranos. And the finale is incredible. And there's this ending, of course, with Don't Stop Believin' playing and what happens to Tony Soprano. And I know since the movie, I know David Chase said some more things. People seem to be convinced that Tony got killed there, right? But I just find it too gruesome. I just can't accept in my heart that Tony's killed in front of Meadow and Carm and AJ, and his brains are in the onion rings. I just can't do that. I can't bring myself to that. Now, there's a great theory online, which I like to, brings me comfort. When Tony's flipping through the songs, he decides on Don't Stop Believing, and they get a really clear shot of it, and the B-side is Any Way You Want It. And there's a theory that the reason Any Way You Want It is the B-side is because the thought here by David Chase was that the finale is Any Way You Want It, and that's why it goes to black. It's Any Way You Want It. And I want to think Tony walks out of there. Later, he's indicted. Whatever happens later is fine. But I just can't. I can't face the horror scene that's Tony dead in the onion rings with Meadow, especially Meadow, sitting there. And as a side note, there's no doubt in my mind that now Meadow is the boss of that family. No doubt. All right, that is the top 5 series finales. We had Cheers at 5, Parenthood at 4, The Wire at 3, The Americans at 2, and Sopranos at 1. Comment, what are your top 5? What's your favorite? How do you disagree with my 5? Let me know. Which one did I miss? Which one do you think needs to be on there the most that isn't? I'm going to guess to get a lot of Breaking Bad, but anyway. Top 5 sports list. The Sportscasters podcast sponsors this one at sports_casters for more information on that. Now it's episode 2 of a show that I hope has many, many episodes. And along the way, I want you to get to know me a little bit better because, of course, the name of the show is 3x5 with Steve Bennett. I'm Steve Bennett, so you should know me a little bit. And, one of the things that, of course, has defined my life is sports. So for today, the top 5 sports moments of my life. And I got some good ones. All right, let's start with actually the most recent on the list. And we go to the world of soccer, and there's Bonucci. Number 5, Italy wins the 2020 Euros played in 2021. Because of the pandemic, the Euros were delayed a year. And let me just tell you this. When the pandemic came and sports went away and sports coming back became like political, whatever, I found something else to do. I interviewed people who wrote books about The Office and did different things on the sports. I just found a way to replace the sports that were missing. And when they came back to open empty arenas, didn't do anything for me. And I wasn't watching and I wasn't interested. I didn't watch barely any of the bubbles, stuff like that. And the thing that got me back was this, the 2021 Euros. Italy played the very first game against Turkey and won 3-0. It was clear in that game that they were a side that would have a chance to win the tournament. And they did that in Wembley against England and penalties. It was an unbelievable ride. My daughter was born 2 days after the start of the 2016 Euro. So I would always say, I'm watching the game with the world's youngest Italian soccer fan at the time. She was days old. I remember having her on the ground on a blanket and watching the Italy lose to Germany in penalties. So she's 5 here and she's watching with me and she knows what it means to be Italian and she's proud to be Italian and she was a big part of this run. And it was just a cultural awakening for me. I've never been so proud to be Italian. I went to the grave of my grandmother to celebrate. My daughter's named after my grandma. And this is one, it's personal for me. And it's number 5 because there's an Italy one higher. Number 4, I was going to cheat and do both, but I'll do one. The 1995 Atlanta Braves win the World Series. I was going to include the 2021 World Series as well, but that's probably number 6 on the list. The Braves are my team because of TBS. I could watch them every day. We didn't have a team in Buffalo, but we did have the Superstation, and the Braves were on every day, and I watched them every day. And finally, after knocking on the door, 91, they lose the World Series in 7 games to the Twins. 92, they lose the World Series to the Blue Jays in 6 games. 93, they lose to Curt Schilling and the Phillies in the NLCS. 94, there is no World Series. And then 95, finally, they have an unbelievable, I think they played 148 games. They were the best team, and they faced the Indians, who were very good with a great lineup. And Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, and Avery, and Justice, and all the guys who defined my childhood as a baseball fan finally got a World Series. Great night, great moment. The Braves, number 4. Number 3, that other Italy moment. And let's start back in 1994. The World Cup was in Buffalo, in USA, not in Buffalo. It's in the USA. And at this point, soccer to me was something I watched every 4 years. Started with the 86 World Cup. USA wasn't in it. Italy was. I was Italian. I cheered for Italy, and I've never stopped. 90, it was in Italy, rooting for Italy in Italy. Super fun. They lose to Argentina in penalties. You go to 94, it's in the U.S., and I'm watching. It's a great tournament for them. Roberto Baggio is the best player in the world. He's dominating the tournament. They go to the final in the Rose Bowl. They're playing Brazil, and they lose in penalties. As they lose the game, I kind of turn around because my great-grandma is back here somewhere sitting. And I knew she's back there, but I thought she's sleeping. I had no idea she was watching. She always said she couldn't see, so I figured she's too far away from the TV. And I kind of turn around and look, and there's just tears running down her eyes. And she's crying because I don't know why. I think something else must be wrong. So I said, Grandma, what's wrong? And she said, oh, I'm so sorry for Italy. They love the kicker so much. They love it, a guy that kick the ball. They love it in Italy so much. I'm so sad for Italy. However it happened, she wasn't as blind as she said, not as deaf as she said, and was able to watch the end of that game with me, even though I didn't know she was. And we lost in penalties. Now, fast forward to this, 2006, the tournament is in Germany, and it's a crazy summer for me. Pearl Jam's on tour. I'm going to Pearl Jam shows. I'm working hockey schools, and Italy's playing in the World Cup. And one of the games, I was in Maryland, Rockville, Maryland, doing a hockey school, and I told my group, Italy's playing. We're going to be slacking off today. And they're like, cool, whatever. So when Italy was playing Australia, they had a penalty at the death of the game. And it was Francesco Totti. He had a chance to either win the game for Italy, send us to the final 8, or the game goes to extra time, anything can happen. And I just remember the incredible rush of him making the penalty and my whole group of 12-year-old hockey players going nuts and cheering and throwing water on me. It was so fun. Such a great tournament. They win 2-0 over Germany in the semis, which is an incredible game. And then we get to the final against France, concede a penalty early, 1-0 France, equalize early, 1-1. Zinedine Zidane in his last game for France headbutts number 23, Materazzi from Italy. Go to penalties. Italy wins. They make all 5. France missed 1. Fabio Grasso, the hero in Germany, is the hero again. Italy's champions in the world. And I went to my grandma's grave and said, don't be sad. They're happy in Italy. We got them. We got it. My team won the freaking World Cup. Unbelievable. It's crazy it's 3, but that goes to show how big the 2 ahead of it are. Number 2. All right. Chris Russo from Mike and the Mad Dog, if you grew up in that area. He always said every U.S. kid needs 2 things, a rock band and a ball club. My rock band is Pearl Jam, and my ball club is the Saints. And I dreamed that someday the Saints would win the Super Bowl. Now, I became a fan way back in 1987. Okay, long before Drew Brees came in 2006. And when I became a Saints fan because they lost 48-10 in a playoff game to the Vikings, and it crushed me and made me want to love them. And in 1996, I could drive, and I've seen every game since, really. I haven't missed a Saints game probably since 1995. This is my team. I got the fat head back there of the moment that sealed the deal. And when you talk about dreams coming true and the Saints winning a Super Bowl, this is one of those dreams right here. The Commemorative Sports Illustrated edition. This was a dream for me to be able to call, subscribe to SI, get the commemorative issue and the football phone or whatever else they sent. And Drew Brees made it happen. I was in the Superdome in 2019. Drew Brees had a thumb injury, so he didn't play. And I ran into him on the field. I met Drew Brees. And I went up to him and I said, thank you for making all my dreams as a sports fan came true. And he did. It's in that picture right there. And I don't know how much more I can say about it, but think about the team you love the most and believing they would never win. And then they did. And it's because of this guy, really, number 9. And Sean Payton, of course, and the other 53. John Vilma, who was the defensive captain of that team, has been on the Sportscasters. And hopefully Breeze will be on soon. I'm knocking the door down every day a little bit more. So how is that not number 1? Well, it's not number 1 because somehow in 2013, my brother won a national championship. Number 1 The 2013 Yale men's ice hockey team wins the national championship. There's a picture of my brother with the national championship trophy. Now, there's a little bit of backstory here. This is 2013. Now, I have Crohn's disease. I've had it for a long time. It's not great. I've had 4 bowel reconstructions, and one of them was right around now, January of 2013. And this is April 13th of 2013. And when I had that surgery, I was in the hospital from January 28th until mid-March. And my brother called me one day, and their goalie was hurt, and they had a 5-game losing streak. And he said, I don't want to be here anymore. Imagine that, right? He didn't want to be at Yale playing ice hockey anymore. Coach is being mean. We keep losing. I'm not scoring. Everything's going bad. Everything's awful. Everything sucks. So I said, listen, first of all, you shouldn't be embarrassed saying that to me right now, considering where I am. Shake your head, get back to work, and I'll see you in Pittsburgh for the Final Four. You'll be there, and I'll be there. And somehow we were both there. We both made it. And they won the semifinals on Thursday in overtime against Massachusetts Lowell. And they beat crosstown rival Quinnipiac 4-0 in the final. Quinnipiac had beat them 3 times already that year. So to win the national championship, they beat a 1 in the first game, Minnesota, a 2 in the second game, North Dakota, a 1 in Massachusetts Lowell, and a 1 in Quinnipiac. Unbelievable run to the championship. And there's this other picture, which I didn't pick because it goes this way instead of this way. And it's a picture of my brother at the arena in Pittsburgh holding the trophy over his head. It's a beautiful picture. And it's kind of a culmination of my family's life for 16 years or whatever it took to get to that moment. So the other stuff is about sports. This is about family. And luckily, my brother and I, with the help of Richard Deitch from Sports Illustrated, we went viral shortly after because of our moment together. But the top 5 sports moments of my life: Italy winning the Euro 2020 and 2021, the Braves winning the 1995 World Series, the Italy winning the 2006 World Cup, the Saints winning Super Bowl 44, and my brother and the Yale Bulldogs winning the 2013 national title. And here's the banner. All right. That's the show for today. Again, I want to thank everyone at the North-South Connection. I want to thank Justin. I want to thank Ryan. I want to thank Aaron. I want to thank everyone there. 24-inch podcast, sportscasters at sports_casters for that. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me more about your list. What would be your top 5, in any of these? What did I miss? What should I add? Give me in the comments. Do all that. We'll be back. Episode 3 soon. 3x5 with Steve Bennett. This is Steve Bennett. Bye now.